Good morning. This is Talking Animals on WMNF. I'm Duncan Strauss, and first my thanks and congratulations to anyone who contributed in any way to Saturday's tropical heat wave being a tremendous success. Everywhere you went, you saw people having a great time and hearing great music. Kudos to all. Meanwhile, my guest today will be Katrina Shadix, founder and executive director of Bear Warriors United, BWU, whose stated mission is to preserve and protect bears and all of Florida's natural resources and wildlife. In carrying out that mission, Shadix engages in an array of advocacy and educational efforts, reflecting her lifelong love of animals. She grew up in rural Florida, second-generation Floridian, and was a guest on Talking Animals in 2022. Given the organization's focus and its name, it makes perfect sense we've invited Shadix to return to Talking Animals this morning to discuss the bear hunt currently being considered by the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, or FWC. The last FWC bear hunt took place in 2015 when 304 bears were killed, or in FWC parlance, harvested, before the hunt was halted after 2 days' time. There's a section on the FWC website devoted to information about the proposed hunt and a way to submit a comment. And there will be an opportunity to offer input in person at a meeting in Ocala on May 21st. We'll discuss all those things and we'll just seek Shadix's viewpoint on the bear hunt, and as you'll hear, she's a sharp, persuasive advocate. Not coincidentally, Bear Warriors United recently scored a major victory on behalf of manatees, winning its federal lawsuit against the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, FDEP, declaring the FDEP violated the Endangered Species Act and the ongoing manatee starvation and die-off in the North Indian River Lagoon, and must now take corrective action. We'll surely touch on this historic triumph, too, when I speak with Katrina Shadix in just a moment here on Talking Animals on WMNF. Before we proceed, a programming note. In exactly 2 weeks, on May 28th, WMNF's Summer Fund Drive begins, and I'll be raising money on Talking Animals that very day, Wednesday, May 28th. I'm typically assigned a giant fundraising goal of $3,000 or more. That's a lot, especially for a one-hour show. So I'm hoping you might consider donating, ideally, before May 28th, maybe even today. Any amount, $35, $50, anything you can swing, $100 or $200, anything is greatly appreciated. We don't know how the White House's policy towards PBS and NPR will affect the fundraising of such stations as WNF, but your donation could be all the more crucial right about now. As usual, we have special exclusive to Talking Animals thank you gifts for pledges at various levels, including one pair of fantastic tickets to see Ringo Starr and his all-star band June 21st at the Baycare Sound in Clearwater. Ringo's touring behind his new album Look Up, which has drawn rave reviews. If you're interested in the Ringo tickets, please contact me. We have all kinds of other special thank you gifts too. To donate, just go to WMNF.org. In the upper right-hand corner, click on Donate. You'll see a secure donation form opens up. Just please select TLA, Talking Animals, so that our show is credited with your donation. Thank you very much. Coming up later in today's program, I'll talk with Dara Worthington, CEO of Friends of Strays, St. Petersburg's oldest no-kill animal shelter, who'll give us a lowdown on, among other topics, some upcoming events Friends of Strays is putting together and offering in coming days, including Cats and Mats Yoga, the Puppy Pride Party, and their big Catsino night. Yeah, you heard me. More on this, including details, when I talk with Dara Worthington later in today's program. Right now, though, let's discuss bears, the bear hunt, manatees, and more with today's guest, Katrina Shadix, with a reminder that I invite you to join the conversation by calling 813-239-9663, emailing dj@wmnf.org, or texting 813-433-0885. Let's welcome Katrina Shadix back to Talking Animals on WMNF. Good morning, Katrina.
Good morning, Duncan. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us again on Talking Animals. Seems like we have much to discuss. But let's just get a little background on you first, just for people who may have heard of you and may or may not have heard the show we did a few years ago. So, as I recall, and mentioned, in fact, you're a second-generation Floridian. Where did you grow up?
In Seminole County. It's the third smallest county in Florida.
Okay.
But it's the third most densely populated because we just have out-of-control development, which affects our wildlife. So growing up in that small little, rural area, I've witnessed firsthand the destruction of wildlife habitat and our wildlife. And so it's been sort of at the root of my heart and soul for almost 57 years now.
Wow. So that really sounds like the growing up under those circumstances kind of really shaped you and shaped kind of your advocacy and the things that you work hard on these days.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. What is the saying? You only love what you know, and I knew the forest and the rivers and the wildlife growing up, and I also know what happened to them. You see it every day, and it doesn't take a second-generation native Floridian like me to be very upset about what's happening to our wildlife and their habitat and our waters by out-of-control development. So definitely it's sort of a lifelong endeavor, and it's turning into a lifelong heartbreak. But, with wins like we just had with the manatees, it gives me the encouragement to go on and hopefully gives others the inspiration to keep fighting, because we can get those wins every once in a while.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we'll circle back, talk more specifically about that win for the manatees, because that's really notable, and they need people fighting on their behalf like you, and so that was significant in so many ways.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, what do you think about growing up where you did and seeing what you saw accounts for your profound connection with bears?
Well, it was, back in my day when I played in the woods along the Econ River and fished on the St. Johns River, there were enough woods and forest to cover the bears. So, as long as you have proper habitat and a natural food supply, you're not going to see bears. They don't want to be around us. So I didn't have any interactions because we had a wonderful, forest ecosystem for bears to live in. We didn't destroy it. We didn't put unsecured trash and unhealthy foods right in the middle of where their tree used to be. So mine was just being at one with nature and the trees, knowing the animals were around, but not necessarily harassing them or interfering with their daily routine. And, there's a cartoon that's very, very popular. It shows a bear in the woods, then it shows someone cutting the tree down, then it shows someone building a mall, and then the last frame is someone screaming at the bear, and the bear's been in the exact same place the entire time. So,
Yeah.
In a perfect world, we don't have interactions with bears because bears have plenty of forest and natural foods to stay away from us, the humans, which is the most dangerous species on the planet.
Yeah, they're not really seeking interactions with us. It just seems like their hand is forced, because when you clear away their habitat and they don't have anywhere to go, that's where those encounters begin.
Exactly. They don't want to be around us. And I call them the scaredy cats of nature because it's super, super easy to startle a bear. And that's one reason why if you see a bear in your garage, you never want to, wave your hands and scare the bear. You move away, you let the bear have a clear path out of your garage, and the bear leaves. So, by cutting down their forest and putting all of these highways and houses in their home, and, then attracting them in with this unhealthy trash, not even attracting them with good food. We just think about what we put in our trash can. The stuff in our trash cans will kill a bear. They've died from ingesting plastic bags. They get their heads caught in those cheese ball plastic containers. There's just so much damage that we can do to wildlife, especially bears, by taking away their forest home and putting these raw developments in, and then putting, this unhealthy attractant in. So it's just, bears can't get a break. They're getting it coming and going. And I always say that bears represent the plight of Floridians. We're seeing our natural homes being destroyed. We're seeing our waters being polluted. We're seeing, toxic lands. And, like the bees, when we kill off the bears, we're not too far behind. The bears are the sentinels of our forests. We have manatees that are the sentinels of our waters, and bees that are the sentinels of our food crops. And when we take extreme measures like we have been as a society to get rid of these animals, well, that only hurts us because we can't be far behind when we pollute our own waters that kill manatees or when we cut down the forest that we depend on for oxygen, clean air, and shade. So we really need to, pay attention. And I know you do, and I do, and a lot of your listeners do, but the majority of society needs to accept the fact that we've taken extraordinary measures to kill off our animals and wildlife, and now we need to take extraordinary measures to save them and ensure that they have a future in the state of Florida.
Yeah, well, along those lines, one of our emailers, I'm not sure if they wanted to rename anonymous or not, but says, the subject line says Seminole County. It says, I'm sad every time I go back home to Seminole County and see what development has done to it. So, same idea.
Yeah, it's a heartbreak. It's a daily heartbreak to see what's going on, and that just gets compounded when you see a dead animal in the road or, a sandhill crane or a gopher tortoise hit in these roads. Slow-moving animals are getting hit, and it's a constant heartbreak. I seriously don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to live in Seminole County because of the out-of-control development. It really, hurts me down to my soul, and I know it hurts a lot of other people, especially the old-timers, to see what's happened. And it's just not Seminole County. It's happening in Lake County, Orange County, Volusia County's bad. Almost every county in Florida, the ecosystems and the loss of habitat is exponentially more than any other state, and it's happening exponentially faster than it ever has before. And I just... if we can't stop this, that it's not going to be good for anyone, not for the animals and not for us and not for my son or my son's future children.
Sure.
So not only am I fighting for the animals, I'm fighting for, my descendants and everyone else's children and grandchildren, because what we do to the planet, the animals, we're doing to ourselves.
So let me ask you this, Katrina. If you really got, I guess even further sort of frustrated and disappointed and sad, really, it sounds like, among other things, and decided to move out of Seminole County, where do you think you would go?
Somewhere deep in the woods.
Okay.
Somewhere, wherever that is, I would probably research and find a place that doesn't have development, where people might not want to live. It's not a hot spot, and just live out in the woods, and that would be my dream. And Seminole County doesn't have that much left, but we did have a big win. I have to bring this up. There was a Yarborough development trying to go in Seminole County, and Bear Warriors United, my nonprofit, actually sued Seminole County Commission to stop this development. And not only did we win and stop that development, we saved Seminole County's entire rural boundary by preventing this 300-home sprawl development from going in. And we got this property on the Florida Forevers list and approved to be purchased by the state in record time. In less than a year, we got that land saved, and it's saved forever. And I want to let your listeners know a super important step to stopping development is going straight to the landowner, which is what I did. I went straight to Mrs. Yarborough. I wrote her a handwritten card and said, hey, we can get your land purchased and conserved forever. I know this is what you want to do. And she had her representative call me, and I connected the representative with the Florida Forever staff member in Tallahassee. And from there, it was, like I said, record timing, getting that land purchased and saved in Seminole County. So that's an epic legacy win that, maybe about 50 Seminole County residents, a lot of them old-timers, that we participated in. We worked really hard, and we're super proud of that victory. But I just want to give advice to all your listeners out there. Go straight to the landowner and talk to them in a polite, respectful manner, because a lot of these landowners don't want their land destroyed. A lot of them have younger generations that want to cash out, and the older generation wants to save it and put it in conservation. So if you just make those connection avenues available,
Yeah.
a lot of times you'll see they want to conserve the land. So we're super excited about that. But again, there's just, for that one big win, we see all these little what is it, death by 1,000 cuts, all these efforts going in. And
but
so
I think
you can only do so much. You can give your best effort. That's what we're trying to do.
I do think along with those death by 1,000 cuts, it really is instructive what you just said, because I think the idea that there's probably a lot of Mrs. Yarboroughs sitting there stuck between various offers that they're getting and not wanting to do this and not wanting to taint what they're still holding, and they're probably generations of, family. So the fact that she heard from you in a handwritten note, I mean, that set things in motion in a way that, like you said, moves swiftly. And it's just, I think there's really an important lesson there.
Yeah, definitely. I hope everyone tries that, before, because it can be very disheartening. I know a lot of people go to county and city commission meetings. That's where those development orders take place that, change conservation area to multifamily or, whatever density. And if you just go straight to the landowner, that's a much more effective way to try to get something put in conservation. And Florida does have a very good land buying program. So, definitely we need to take advantage of that. They also have a conservation easement program. So if the state doesn't buy the land outright, they can pay you millions of dollars to put a conservation over it. But there's a loophole in that is extremely dangerous, that conservation easement can be taken off by the grantor or the grantee at any time and allow that land to be developed. And that's what happened to Split Oak Forest. It was under a conservation easement. Florida Fish and Wildlife Commissioners voted to take that conservation off. Now, that land was supposed to be conserved forever. But because of that loophole in the conservation easement state statute, they were allowed to take that conservation off and put a massive toll road through it. So we're still fighting that, but outright purchase of the land is much better and much safer for all of us and all of the landowners that truly do want to conserve their land forever.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you've learned to navigate a lot of this and all the potential loopholes and things that could come back and haunt you if you didn't know better. So it sounds like you've really learned a lot and become super educated on the mechanics of this that can help offset the big machinery that you're otherwise up against.
Right, and it all happened by mistake. I didn't know any of this. I didn't even know what a city or county commission was. I didn't know what a development order was until, I lived across the street from this beautiful forest. My dog and I would hike every day. There was panther in there, indigo snakes, this beautiful little peaceful place, and that was in Oviedo in Seminole County. And I went to work one day. When I came back at 5, that forest was gone and in burning piles of mulch. And I was in shock. I got depressed. My animals and I got sick from the, black dirt started coming in the AC filters. And I said, how is this even legal? And that was, 2013. That was one of those 1,000 cuts that, is helping to destroy Seminole County. But I learned from then the whole political process of how developers pay our city and county commissioners to give them the vote to change the development order and allow that small development in a forest. So, like I said, it's been a heartbreaking endeavor, but so rewarding at times and hopefully so inspiring to other people that they can do the same thing. We do have a chance. We have to work hard, and it's difficult to get these wins, but it can be done. All hope should not be lost. So I want to help everyone fight as much as they want. And, feel free to give out my cell phone number, my email address, because I want to help Floridians save what we have left of Florida.
Well, with that in mind, what prompted you to first advocate for bears, to take your first step in seeking to protect them? Was there a particular incident, or was it just cumulatively where you just said, I love bears too much to kind of just stand by and watch this happen? Katrina? Hello?
It was Commissioner Horan. He's not a commissioner anymore. He made the comment, there's too many bears. They need to die. They need to be killed in a hunt. And I thought this was just such a foreign concept to me that not only that a politician would say this, but that their words were taken with some kind of authority. Like he's just some nobody that's up on a dais and he gets to put input about killing our wildlife. And that enraged me. Right.
Sorry,
there.
Katrina, can you back up? There was a brief time after I asked you the question about how you got involved with protecting bears and your first step, where it almost seemed like the call had dropped out because we weren't hearing you at all. And then I was just about to conclude that I had lost you. I was going to try to reconnect, and then you came back on just when you were starting to talk about Commissioner Horan. So you'd obviously said something prior to that we probably need to hear.
Yeah. Okay, yes. You asked me the times when that I got involved, and there were two specific times. The first was when I went to a Seminole County commissioner, and I heard Commissioner Horan say that there's too many bears and they need to be killed in a hunt. And I thought that was absurd that a politician could say such a thing and say it with an air of authority that he had no scientific or any background in wildlife or conservation, but he was allowed to make that determination. And I vowed that I would run against him when he was up for re-election just because he said bears need to die. The second thing that catapulted me into, bear advocacy was I had just had back surgery, major back surgery. I was in bed, couldn't walk. I had a back brace. It was pretty horrible. And I was laying in bed, scrolling through Facebook on my phone, and I saw all of these pictures start coming in of dead bears. And I was just astounded that that could happen anywhere, let alone the state of Florida. And the next day I had called a friend. It was the Sunday, the second day of the bear hunt in 2015. I called a friend because I couldn't drive after back surgery, and I asked her to take me down to the Rock Springs Hunt check station so I could bear witness to this atrocity. And when we got into the Rock Springs Run area, I saw my first Florida black bear. She was a young yearling, and you could tell she had just lost her mother, probably within the previous 24 hours because of the hunt. Over 60% of the bears killed in the hunt were females. And I locked eyes with her, and I said out loud, I will never let them do this again to you and your family as long as I live. And that galvanized me to, where I am today, trying to stop the hunt, because it's horrible. And everyone, over 80% of Floridians agree that it's horrible and it shouldn't be done. So doing what I can and hopefully engaging with, thousands or millions of Floridians to get this 2025 bear hunt stopped.
All right, well, let's delve into that. Let me just, because some people may have joined us a bit late, let me just reintroduce you. This is Talking Animals on WNF. I'm Duncan Strauss. If you did just tune in, my guest is Katrina Shadix, founder of Bear Warriors United, whose mission is to preserve and protect bears and all of Florida's natural resources and wildlife. So we're discussing bears, just starting now to discuss the bear hunt, and we've mentioned, and we'll come back later, to a major victory that she also recently scored on behalf of manatees. So if you'd like to ask Katrina a question or offer a comment on the bear hunt or related topics, 813-239-9663. Email dj@wmnf.org or text 813-433-0885. So we obviously know a little bit of the history because of your own specific history right after the back surgery. But for people who are maybe just not steeped in the bear hunt story, what should we know that gets us up to kind of the current proposed hunt?
Sure, yes. So the history of Florida bears, they were almost hunted into extinction. And at one time, Florida was home to 11,000 black bears. And Florida black bears are their own subspecies of black bear. So they're a very, very special group of bears. Every group of bears is special, but we have our Florida black bears. And after having 11,000 roaming our state, we are down to 4,000 bears in this state. And that's... the only reason why we have those 4,000 left is because they stopped the hunting of them in the 70s when they nearly went extinct. So it is never going to be a good time to hunt bears in the state of Florida because their future is not guaranteed in the state. The biggest threat to bear survival is loss of habitat, which is sprawl development. The state of Florida has more than any other state in this country. So we have to treat the Florida black bear species with special circumstances because the state of Florida is special. We're different than any other state, so we need to protect our wildlife differently than other states do. And they have the FWC, Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, is the state agency that is in control of managing, we say quote-unquote managing, the bear population. They want 20% of the bears to die every year. Now, that 20% mortality rate is already met with loss of habitat, with poaching, and with over 300 bears being killed just by vehicles alone every year in the state of Florida. So with those numbers and with those threats to the future of black bears, that 20% is being exceeded, and their future in the state of Florida is not guaranteed. Now, the FWC wants to throw in a trophy bear hunt where they're just, quote-unquote, providing a recreational opportunity for sportsmen. Well, I can tell you and guarantee you, like millions of your listeners, killing bears is not a sport. A sport is when both sides know they're in the game. These bears are innocent. They live in our woods. They are the sentinels of our forest. We need them on our landscape to save what's left of Florida and to protect our environment and our own quality of life. And the first bear hunt was bad enough in 2015, but now the FWC is having the meeting on May 21st to add different things into the hunt. They want to add the use of bow and arrows. They want to add the use of hunting dogs, packs of dogs going into the woods to chase down and maul bears. They want to add hunting parties, which would, one licensed hunter would be able to bring 9 guests with him. Those 10 people can have 6 dogs, and all 10 people can be shooting at the bear at the same time. I have no idea why or how they came up with this proposition, but it's absolutely ridiculous. That should not be approved. They also want to add in baiting, that you'll be allowed to put a feeding station out for a bear, and they've decreased the amount of distance that a bear can be from a bait pile before you can shoot them. It used to be so many distance. Now they're like, oh, yeah, you can basically be over the bait pile, and they can get their head blown off. So there's nothing sporting about this, and it's definitely not good conservation when you want to kill off for sport a species that only has 4,000 members left and a species that is very important to saving what's left of Florida. So is there any specific questions about the hunt?
Well, I guess just as you outlined that, I mean, I just wonder, with the number of bears you already noted that are dying from habitat loss or cars or other things like that, why, on the other hand, the FWC seems to be ratcheting up tremendously the efforts to kill what seems like ultimately a large number of bears. I mean, how does this? How do we square this, or is there just no way to square it?
Well, there's no way to reconcile what's going on. In December, the FWC's Bear Management Division, Bear Management Team, led by Mike Orlando, did an amazing job giving the commissioners an update on the Bear Management Plan. And nowhere in his presentation did he say that we need a hunt. He actually bragged that, the FWC is working with Floridians to secure trash, and the bear-human encounters were decreasing, the core complaints were decreasing, and my home county specifically went from number 1 of bear complaint calls to the FWC down to number 8. And that's because I provide free bear straps and education to people in Seminole County, and our Seminole County residents love our bears, and they do whatever it takes to save them. And when it's the simple step of securing your trash, people are so on board, and they're even more on board when it's free to do that, when there's no cost to them.
Yeah.
So the FWC Bear Management Team In no way was ever insinuated that a hunt was needed or wanted. And right after that very wonderful presentation that Mike Orlando gave, one of the commissioners, he's a developer for the villages, named Gary Lester. He didn't even acknowledge Mike's great presentation. He immediately said, let's talk about a bear hunt. So from what I can tell, it is one man up on that dais, one man in FWC with thousands of employees and staff members that was allowed to get a bear hunt on the agenda. And that is so unacceptable. You could tell during that meeting that the other commissioners didn't even want to discuss a bear hunt. And as a matter of fact, not one of those commissioners seconded the motion to discuss a bear hunt. So we have one guy, Gary Lester, that has initiated this whole atrocity and just really slapped FWC's bear management team in the face because they've done all this great work. And it's like, well, it doesn't matter what you've done. It doesn't matter what Floridians do or what Floridians want. We want a bear hunt to satisfy the bloodlust of a handful of trophy killers. And, what can we do about it? We can't do much because the governor appoints these commissioners, and he appoints these commissioners as a reward for donating lots of money to his campaign. So what we can do is attend the FWC meeting on May 21st by 8:30 in the morning and speak out. Sign up to speak and voice your opinion against the bear hunt.
And also, Katrina is doing comments. Let's say someone feels strongly about this, but for one reason or another, war, conflict, other conflict, can't get to Ocala on May 21st. Sending comments into bear comments at myfwc.com.
Yes.
Is that effective?
That's one. It is, yes. It gets, they tally all the for and against comments. So make sure in the subject line of your email, put no bear hunt, and then you can write in the body of the email whatever, expound on why you don't want a bear hunt. Also, if you go onto the FWC's website and click on the agenda for the May 21st meeting, they have a commenting portal. And if you click on that, it's a second way to comment to commissioners. And you need to do that this Friday by 5 p.m. But it's on the FWC May agenda website, and you'll see it highlighted in blue. It'll say comment. It's like comment portal, I think it's called.
Okay.
But those are the two ways to send in your comments. And they do help. They do tally the comments, and it's always overwhelmingly against the bear hunt. But the more people that can email, the better. Especially, we all know everyone can't make it to the meeting, and it's designed to kind of suppress public, input by having it in the middle of the week when we're all either at school or have our kids or working.
Yeah.
So those emails really help. So whoever can email, and you can also email me if you want talking points at bearwarriorsunited@gmail.com. I can help you out with that. But yes, those two, bear comments at myfwc.com, and then the commenting portal on the FWC website.
All right. Well, that sounds like a very effective way. But here's something that just shows you, I guess, like how I don't know. I don't necessarily think of myself as naive, but in this case, I may about sound that way. So, if this Gary Lester apparently is the only one so fervently in favor of the bear hunt, and if it goes to some sort of vote, do we have reason to think that his fellow commissioners otherwise are, like most Floridians, against the bear hunt? So, I mean, in addition to registering everybody's opinion through comments, through going to the meeting if you can, through the portal, et cetera, do we have any kind of confidence that this will play out okay, or what else do we need to do? And is it so lopsided, just even though one guy has kind of sounded like the moving force behind this?
Mm-hmm. In previous years, we had a lot of confidence that the commissioners would listen to the public. This year is completely different because what we've seen in the past 2 years on the FWC Commission is that the commissioners will want to vote a certain way, but the commission chair, another developer, Rodney Barreto, will bully the commissioners into voting the way that he wants. And that's how the conservation easement was taken off of Split Oak Forest. They think they removed the easement. Technically, they didn't, but in their minds, they think they voted to remove the conservation easement. And you could tell there were at least 3 commissioners that did not want to vote to remove the conservation easement. But Rodney Brito does this thing where he looks to his left, looks to his right, and basically says, don't fight me on this, and they vote his way. Now, there's one commissioner, Steve Hudson. He's wonderful. I would vote against Rodney. He's the only one with the guts to vote a different way than chairman and developer Rodney Barreto, and we love Mr. Hudson for doing that. We are hoping the other commissioners will follow Hudson's lead and vote against it, but we just don't know. We don't know how it's going to work out. It's a very political decision, and there's lots of money involved. There's what we call the developer cartel. Most of the commissioners are developers, and you have to realize they're making decisions for the agency that decides how wildlife is going to be managed. Well, when you have valuable wildlife on a big piece of land, it's easier to develop that land and destroy the land when you don't have that valuable wildlife on it, like a gopher tortoise, an indigo snake, a Florida black bear. So anytime developers can vote to get those animals, the wildlife, that can stop development. When you vote to get those animals off that land, it makes it easier to develop. So if this goes down to a political or a developer vote, they're going to vote to have a bear hunt because that means there's more bears that are going to be killed and less reasons to pay millions to put that land into conservation for wildlife habitat, because why would we pay millions to put into wildlife habitat when there's no wildlife on it? So there are deeper corrupt reasons for having a bear hunt, and it's another frustrating thing, but we have to do our best. We're not responsible for the end results. We're only responsible for our best effort, and our best effort is going to be trying to convince those commissioners to vote against the bear hunt.
So is the May 21st meeting and the comments, the emails and the comments through the commenting portal, is that really kind of the pivotal and sort of last significant opportunity to have Floridians register their objection to the bear hunt? It
is, yes. Those 2 commenting tools are the best way to put your opposition on record. And then, of course, May 21st is speak out in person. And then, of course, if there just so happens to be a nonprofit organization that's going to file a lawsuit against the FWC about this bear hunt, they could always help and support that nonprofit organization that's sticking their neck out there to file a lawsuit against the agency.
And is there a certain organization that is about to file it but hasn't yet filed that lawsuit?
But there's some talk on the street that Bear Warriors United might be doing that.
Yeah, I figured that might be who we're talking about here. So is that going to have a specific timing to it? Is that why you're sort of not revealing directly, at least, that's part of the plan?
Right, yeah. We're, I don't want to announce officially until it's filed. So, but I can say right now, and, I'm not going to be quiet about it anymore. Yes, we are filing a lawsuit against the FWC for bears.
Great. Excellent.
It's just, it needs to be done. We've actually been working on this since 2016. So it's not just about the bear hunt. It's about long-term protections of the Florida black bears. And, but, now it's critical. We've had all these other lawsuits and all these other endeavors that we've been working on, like, stopping development and so many other things, that this decision to to bring a bear hunt proposal to the May meeting really, okay, we really need to do the lawsuit now. We've waited long enough. It's crucial that we get this filed.
All right. Well, that's we'll keep an eye out for that, obviously. And how do you think the recent fatal bear attack in Collier County, killing the 89-year-old man and apparently, I guess, his dog as well, affects the conversation around the bear hunt? I mean, it marks the first fatal Florida black bear attack, I guess, in the state history. So it feels like that would be used in some way.
I think if the trophy killers want to use that as an excuse to have a hunt. It's definitely a flimsy argument, because we know if we want to not encounter bears or not get attacked by bears, we don't leave attractants out. We don't leave unsecured trash, and we certainly don't feed bears and attract them to our property. So, I think if a trophy killer wants to use that, he can, be welcome. I think it's a little, I'd hate to me, it'd sort of be a disrespectful thing to do to the deceased man.
Yeah, well, especially because it sounds like it's really more of a horrific anomaly than anything to sort of base or help.
Well, absolutely an anomaly, because we know no one has ever been killed by a Florida black bear in the entire history of the state of Florida until 3 weeks before they have a controversial vote on a black bear hunt. There's a reason why millions of Floridians are doubting lots of things about what happened. But one thing we don't want to do is disrespect the life of this poor man. 89, it's sad. Everything is sad. The man died, the dog died, 3 bears died. Nothing good about this situation can be said. And for a trophy killer to want to use this in an argument, it's just so disrespectful. And I hope no one does that. But if they do, they'll just be showing their true colors.
Yeah. All right, well, we're sort of nearing the end of our time, Katrina, but just want to let people know in the last moment or two, in case they want to jump into the conversation. My guest is Katrina Shadix, founder of Bear Warriors United, whose mission includes protecting bears. We're discussing the proposed bear hunt, and in our last moment or two, we're going to hopefully touch on the great, important victory that she scored on behalf of manatees. So you're invited at the last moment or two, if you can quickly call or email if you'd like to participate. Call 813-239-9663. Email dj@wmnf.org or text 813-433-0885. Also, we did get an email that said, I lived in New Mexico for 8 years, and it's part of the culture to hunt. Someone I knew told me they were hunting for bear and managed to wound one. He then tracked the bear for 2 days. During this period, he said he heard the bear wailing, and he said it sounded like a human being. After that experience, he told me he would never hunt again. So,
wow, yeah, it's my family are hunters. I was raised on venison, and like I said, we fished out of the St. Johns River. Every single one of my hunting family members are vehemently opposed to a bear hunt. They do not sport hunt. They don't trophy hunt, and they're getting to the point where they said they don't even hunt in Florida anymore because the deer are too small and too few, and they're extremely worried about loss of habitat. My family members actually go to other states where they don't have this loss of habitat and wildlife killing problem like Florida does. So it's when something like that happens to your caller, it's a life-changing moment. And, if people could really see what happens to bears in these hunts when they get tracked, when they get shot, when they get attacked by dogs, no one in their mind would support a bear hunt at all.
Yeah. And I got so many documents and pages and notes and emails and stuff here that I forgot until this emailer just reminded me. There's a protest May 17th scheduled in Tampa at 11 a.m. at International Plaza. Bear hunt protest, obviously. So I'm glad. Thanks for reminding me, because there's too many things to juggle and so many details. So, in fact, in our last moment or two, let's switch gears. Obviously, a lot of your work is focused on bears and bears in the name. But as we touched on, you recently scored a major legal victory on behalf of manatees. We don't have much time left, I'm afraid, Katrina, but can you describe that victory and how you decided to step into a case that involved manatees?
Yeah, definitely. So a couple years ago, we saw these, all the headlines that manatees are starving to death. We filed a lawsuit against the state of Florida, the Department of Environmental Protection, against their water regulatory and sewage regime. And they regulate the amount of sewage and the amount of development that can have and dump sewage into our waterways. So when that happened, when these huge sewage spills happened, millions of gallons spilled in Titusville, and then we have septic tanks leaching into our rivers. Our lawsuit was specifically the Northern Indian River Lagoon. That's where over 1,000 manatees starved to death from sewage pollution. So the sewage was dumped into the waters, and that created an algal bloom. The algal bloom blocked out the sunlight from the bottom of the lagoon, which killed the seagrass. The seagrass is the main food source of the manatees, and when you don't have the main food source, seagrass, you die. And unfortunately, these poor manatees starved to death. It was a very long process of death. It was painful because when a manatee starves to death, their insides turn to liquid and mush. And now we have chronic malnutrition of manatees, which means record numbers of babies are dying because the mother manatees who survived the starvation event are chronically malnourished and cannot bear healthy babies. So we have massive amounts of babies dying. We won this lawsuit. The FDEP was found guilty of violating the Endangered Species Act by starving manatees to death. And so now we get to order injunctive relief, and we're asking for a feeding program for the manatees in the northern Indian River Lagoon until the seagrass grows back. And it may not grow back for 10 years. But if we get our injunctive relief, we will get to clean up the northern Indian River Lagoon from that sewage pollution in record time. So our ask of the state, and that we won, when you win a car wreck lawsuit, you get money. Well, in this lawsuit, we're asking for things to clean the water and save manatees from extinction. And we hope the state would not fight us on those things, because if they push back on our win, they're pushing back on saving manatees from extinction, and they're pushing back on cleaning up sewage pollution out of the Indian River Lagoon. You would think they wouldn't do that, but they are. And it just goes back to the Ansel Adams quote, "It's horrifying that we have to fight our own government to save the environment."
All right. Well, on that note, let's note also, too, that this effort of yours generated coverage all kinds of places, most notably on CNN, so that was great. And so you're a friend to manatees, you're a friend to bears, you're a friend to all wildlife, and to me, then you're a friend to Floridians who care about animals. So thank you so much. We've been speaking with Katrina Shadix, Bear Warriors United. The website is bearwarriorsunited.com, and that's where you can contact her and find out more information. So Katrina, thank you so much for joining us again on Talking Animals and all your great works on behalf of all our animal friends.
Yeah, thank you, Duncan, and thanks for having a radio show dedicated to animals. That's so wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
In a moment, I'll speak with Dara Worthington. She's the CEO of Friends of Strays, which stands as St. Petersburg's oldest no-kill animal shelter. Today, Dara and I will be focusing mostly on some of their upcoming events, including the Casino Night and others. More on that in just a moment. Right now, we're going to step into the comedy corner with a bear-oriented piece from Mike Birbiglia called "I'm a Bear." In today's comedy corner on Talking Animals on WMNF.
This is the first time I remember sleepwalking. I always had dreams about wild animals when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I had this recurring dream for years that there was a bear walking in the front door of my house, literally opening the front door, which is the scariest part when you think about it. A bear with opposable thumbs. Because if a bear can open a door, sky's the limit. I don't have a plan for that one. My plan was the door. In the dream, I would hide in the kitchen cupboard with my sister Patty, and it's pitch black, and I'm scared to death, and I open up the door crack to let in some light. I look next to me, and Patty is gone, and she's been replaced by the bear. He doesn't kill me, but he gives me kind of a coy, Jack Nicholson-y look. Like, will I kill you? And that's when I wake up. And I had that dream for years, and then eventually I attempted to face this lifelong fear. Patty and I went to Alaska. We went to this place called Katmai National Park, which is one of these places that has so many bears that when you arrive, they take you to what's called bear orientation. And they teach you, and it seems counterintuitive, but if you ever see a bear walking towards you, you're actually supposed to clap and make the bear aware of your presence. Like, I'm right here, bear. I'm right here. I'm Mike, and you're a bear. And we're okay with each other. And when they told me this, I was like, oh, I'm going to be murdered by a bear. Because that seems like basting yourself in barbecue sauce. It's like, I'm right here, bear. I'm right here. and I taste fantastic. I've applied condiments so that I'll be less bland.
That was Mike Birbiglia in today's Comedy Corner. The piece called I'm a Bear, taken from his album Sleepwalk with Me. Now it's time to talk with Dara Worthington, CEO of Friends of Strays, here to fill us in chiefly on some upcoming Friends of Strays events. Here's Dara on Talking Animals on WMNF. Good morning, Dara.
Good morning, Duncan.
Thanks for joining us again on Talking Animals. And we've had good fortune, or I've had the good fortune to speak with you a number of times over the years. But just in case somebody listening, for one reason or another, may not be familiar with Friends of Strays, maybe you could give us the elevator pitch on what it is and its mission.
Yeah, Friends of Strays is the first no-kill animal shelter in St. Petersburg, Florida. We're in our 46th year of operation, starting in 1978. We are in a growth phase right now and doing everything that we can do to help save animals in Pinellas County and the state of Florida.
That's great. And it looks like, looking at your calendar, there's a lot of events kind of on the horizon and just generally. So let's talk about that. Why are events important to Friends of Strays?
Events are important to Friends of Strays because it helps us build friends, build our network. We get a lot of people that support our mission at these events, and we hope that they will follow us and support us for years to come. So just getting our name out into the community and getting people to understand the good work that we're doing here is a very important part of our mission.
For sure. Well, let's talk about a few of those that are coming up. Among those are Cats and Mats Yoga. The name probably suggests what happens, but maybe you could give us the details just in case.
Yeah, we do kitten yoga the fourth Saturday of each month at our new Cat Box facility, and tickets are required. We only have a room for about 20 people, so definitely get your tickets beforehand. It's a $25 donation. You just bring a mat and a towel and flow with the kitties.
And how many kitties are involved typically in that kind of session?
We usually have 4 or so kittens.
That's great.
They're usually fun and run around and get on top of people while they're doing their stretches, and it's just a good time.
Sounds like the way to do yoga for sure if you have the option.
Yeah.
So, and then Barks and Bruises coming up, I think, after that.
Barks and Brews is coming up at Two Shepherds Tap Room on May 24th from 1 to 3. We'll have a table there with info on adoptable pets, and you can bring your dog and have a beer.
Okay, but not the dog. Yeah, that's where we draw the line.
No,
yeah.
Just the human for the beer.
Right. And then Puppy Pride Party sounds cool.
Yes, we're doing Puppy Pride on, let me see here, Saturday, May 31st at Dunedin Pet Supply. And then Sunday, June 1st, we've got Dunedin Pride and Family Fun Day. That's at Dunedin Pride in the Park at Pioneer Park from 3 to 5. Great. We've got a bigger event coming up in June.
Is that Casino night?
Yeah.
I just enjoy saying Casino.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's our first night having a casino event. We're really looking forward to this. It's going to be June 14th from 6 to 9 at the Boca Ciega Ballroom on St. Pete Beach. It's going to be a fun-filled, purpose-driven event where every bet is a win, supporting cats and dogs in need. We've got tables including blackjack, craps, roulette, poker, and more. Tickets are $75 per person and includes enough chips to get you started, and 2 drinks, and we'll have heavy hors d'oeuvres passed around as well.
Well, that sounds great. Well, I think we're just about near the end of our time here, Dara, but it's great to get caught up and everything. And again, you can find out more at friendsofstrays.org about the organization, about these events. All this events tab covers all these things and more. So good luck on all the events, including Casino Night.
Thanks, Duncan. Thanks for having us on again.
Thanks for joining us on Talking Animals. Take care. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Talking Animals on WNF Tampa. The conversation.